Hello, I'm James Cook, and thank you for joining the James Cook Podcast. Country music radio host Bill Mack passed away July 31st of this year. He was a Grammy winning member of the Country Music Disc Jockey Hall of Fame, songwriter, on-air personality, and host of many country shows. The Midnight Cowboy had a phenomenal career in country music, and I recently sat down and spoke with his son and partner in crime, Billy Mack III. Please enjoy.
Afternoon, neighbors. This is your old saddle pal, Bill Mack, sneaking in here with the Bill Mack Saturday afternoon show. We hope everybody's feeling real fine.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your dad and his impact in your life and your career.
Yeah, it's funny because I started off doing litigation support. Yeah, I interned with him in WBAP. I slept in radio stations, spent the night with him during the all-night show during the summers, and it was always a lot of fun. And interned when I was about 15 to about 18 years old during the summer,
Okay.
But yeah, I think when I was about 29 is when he went over to XM Radio. And when he went over to XM Radio, that's when he called me and he said, "Hey, would you want to come over and help me, just get the music logs for my show?" And so I was like, sure. So, and I already knew the type of music he loved. I grew up on it, Lefty Frizzell, Hank Sr., and George Jones, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, and the list goes on and on and on. He would bring me in, and we would talk on the air about certain stuff. And the higher ups called and asked me one time, would Billy be interested in doing a weekend show with us? And that was on channel 171, Open Road. And I was like, well, I've done this, Mr. Cocky, and well, the first day you've ever been on the air with your own show, James, or maybe you were just stone cold, you had it, but I started having nerves, man. I felt like I was having a panic attack.
Oh, wow.
So I looked at my dad, he was in the other room, and they had built him a studio in Fort Worth, which we still have. And so I went in there and I said, "Hey, Dad, I'm nervous, yada, yada, yada. Do you have any advice for me?" And he said, "Son, this business is, I'll keep it clean." He goes, "This business is about 90% BS." And he goes, You're 100% full of it. You're going to be fine." That's all he said. Go have fun,
After he had passed away, I started looking up old interviews with him. The first thing I saw was, and I noticed, he actually DJ'd in my hometown, Wichita Falls.
Wichita Falls was, he started cleaning the bathrooms and stuff as a side gig over at the radio station in Shamrock, Texas, where he grew up.
Okay.
And till something happened with another DJ, till he finally got a shot, and finally the GM or somebody said, "Hey, somebody's sick. Do you want to come in?" And he went in, and the rest was history. But when he went to Wichita Falls, he always stated that was his university into radio.
Okay.
That, he said that's where he started learning more about himself, learning how to transition from songs and front sell, back sell, all that good stuff. But also the main thing was he said was slowing down and being himself and being natural, to which transition to where he ended up. He was at WBAP. He started at WBAP in 1969. Back then, they didn't have all the FCC rules and everything, so you could pick up WBAP from Dallas, Fort Worth. To some parts in Canada.
Every picture I saw of him, he was around somebody huge, somebody I just can't believe he's next to him. Marty Robbins, Jerry Lee Lewis. Did you ever get to see some of these crazy, huge country stars when you were growing up?
Oh, absolutely. I grew up. I grew up around Merle Haggard and Willie Nelson and all these guys. So that was pretty normal for us. My sisters and I growing up. Not until I got older did I start appreciating it a lot more, because those became my favorites. My Willie and my dad and Waylon, they grew up songwriting together. Even my dad was like big in radio. My dad, and I don't know if it was Wichita, it was Lubbock, I think, or something, but Waylon was DJ there along with my dad. And so Waylon and my dad wrote a lot of songs together, in their off time. They just sit there and write songs, and a lot of them they sold, just like Willie did with Crazy for Patsy Cline. So there were a lot of songs that my dad wrote, that Waylon wrote, that you hear today that you're like, oh shit, wow.
So when I was listening to early versions of Blue, and that's on vinyl. I think I'd seen something online where it showed that it was still on vinyl. To hear the early version, to go, man, that's such a classic sound. And if you remember, whenever Leanne Rimes released that song, it's a record scratch on a top 40 country station in the 90s. And it's such a killer sound. So I remember hearing that and going like, awesome, how cool is this sound?
Well, you're right. And also, and back then when that song came out, they would say it was two country.
Two country.
Two country.
Two country for country.
Two country for country, man.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
what was that process like? Like, how did she get a hold of it? Was it an old song she already knew, or?
Marty Rendelman used to be her manager. And Marty Rendelman and my dad had worked together for quite a while. And, she lived in Grand Prairie. And so Marty had called my dad and said, you've got to check out this young girl. The voice on her. She's playing at Johnny High and over in Arlington and stuff like that. So anyway, well, he did. He listened to her and he was just blown away by her voice. I mean, at her age. So he did. He gave her a few songs and said, whatever you think. And he pulled Blue out. And he had not done really much with that song, and gave it to her. And Leanne was sold on it. Her parents, who were managing her at the time, didn't want her to record Blue. Oh, wow. And she stood by her guns as a young girl and says, no, I want to sing this song. I want to sing this one right here. And, the rest is kind of history. But, yeah, it was pretty cool watching that, because that was at the same time I was interning at WBAP. And, so Leanne was always in the studio. Her parents, and just very wonderful people. She'll always be that little girl that I knew running up and down the halls, and I was young too, so we just hung out. And it was pretty surreal though when he got the Grammy for it, and when he was nominated, he was just like, I was very humble guy. He really is, and then to win, so when he was out there in New York, we had a Grammy party at our house, and to see him get that was pretty amazing. Going over to my dad's house, it's kind of funny because you go over there and it's like a museum in some ways. Now he doesn't protect it and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, there's so many awards that I forget. I'm like, oh yeah, he got that, or he got that one, and but yeah, that the Grammy is like the top tier for a musician, and something he never thought he would receive, and for him to receive that was it blew all of our minds, and we were extremely, extremely proud of him. He called me, and that was back in the 90s, when Smashing Pumpkins, Pearl Jam, and that was going on. And now I've always loved that music too.
Yeah.
And my dad called me, and he was backstage. He's like, hey, did you see it? And I was like, yeah, I saw it. So proud of you. Everybody in the house was clapping. We were just having a great time. He goes, hang on, I'm back here with who? My mom knew I loved Smashing Pumpkins. And she goes, we're back here with the Smashing Pumpkins. We're right over there. He goes, the Bumpkins smashing something? And I went, oh, Smashing Pumpkins did. He had no idea who they were.
The Bumpkins. We're back here with the Bumpkins.
Yeah, we're back here with the Bumpkins. But, he was extremely proud. But I always say this, too, man, is we were at the house, and he didn't talk about all that. He didn't sit around and go, listen to this song I wrote, or come here and listen to this. He went with me from time to time. He'd be like, hey, what do you think about this? Especially as he got older, he did. But growing up, that was never like a big topic growing up. So it was normal to us, Yeah. But of course, like I said, as I got older, I was just kind of like, wow, man, what an amazing career. And to be able to work with him, the final years of his radio career was a blessing for me. And that's really when I started to really soak things in on the way he approached artists and the way he approached life in general, not just radio. He was a great man, fantastic.
It's also, I really love the fact that he was able to speak on such a conversational level, no matter what he was doing. I listened to some of the bits he would do and I just got to say, Midnight Cowboy Trucking Show is one of the coolest damn names I've ever heard for a show ever. That's a killer name. He was directly speaking. That's something you and I know. I mean, we're both in the radio biz. That's what we're supposed to do. Have a conversation with people that aren't there.
Right.
And he was able to do that in a way where I was obviously, as soon as I heard it, I was like, that's how you do it. That's how you do it.
Well, the truck drivers are the ones that gave him that nickname. And they're the ones who created that Midnight Cowboy. It wasn't my dad or anybody else.
That's way cooler.
Because the truck drivers would call in, and then they started calling him Midnight Cowboy, and it just stuck.
That's so cool.
That was back then when no cell phones were around, and these truckers were driving for 2 weeks at a time. Sometimes the long haul truckers gone for a month, and so sometimes the wives would call in, knowing their husband or whoever was listening, and so that was their communication with their husband on the road or something.
I remember the focus in the 70s for truckers. I mean, you had movies, you had songs, Convoy. So there was a lot of focus on truckers around then and their lives. And to see that he was a part of that in such a big way is also, it's mind blowing a little bit to know that he was in the center of all that.
Yeah. When country music started changing to where we're at today, with the, my dad, the funny story about my dad is I posted something about one of the pop country artists out today. And I posted, this is years back. And talking about this wasn't real country, just one of those funny memes, or something like that. Well, my dad saw it on social media. And he came up to me and he said, he goes, I saw that on Facebook. And I go, yeah. And he never told me how to live my life or something. But he goes, why do that? And I go, I don't know, because I don't think he's country music. And I go, so you know that? And he goes, so this guy has millions and millions and millions of fans, and you're the one that knows better than everybody else. Like that. And I thought about that. And he goes, well, spend time promoting the people you love. He goes, don't knock anybody for any artistic talent they might have, whether you agree with it or not. And I learned a lot from that. I get so upset about it. Play what you want. And I have, fortunately today, I have the ability to program a station and be music director. And I play some of the new Nashville. I don't get into the bro stuff, but there's still good new Nashville out there. Great Texas music. That's where my heart belongs. But yeah, you can mix it up. And I think we've done a very good job out here. Now, in saying that, without saying the artist's name, this is about a week and a half later. It was right around Thanksgiving. And there was somebody who played the halftime show for the Dallas Cowboys. And my dad was sitting there, and we were watching the game. My dad goes, well, who the hell is that? I go, you remember that Facebook post that she got on me about? And he goes, yeah. I go, that's him. Dad goes, oh, shit, I'm sorry, son. He goes, swear to God, James, he goes, I'll mind my own business from now on. I go, okay.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad that you've been sharing some of those interviews online as well, because the one that I saw with Waylon Jennings, through that conversation, I gathered those two's relationship, those two guys and their relationship. And while I'm watching it, I realized, because it's 2004 that I'm looking at, I realized while I was watching it, I'm looking at decades of these two guys knowing each other. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at decades of friendship, decades of them hanging out at a bar, enjoying music together. It told so much just in that interview.
A lot of these people, and just like you and I, you gain friendships through this business. And my dad, Waylon, Merle. I think the only time I saw my dad ever tear up when an artist passed away, and that was when Merle Haggard passed. And that was, he took that really tough.
I'm so sorry. It was Merle Haggard.
Yeah, it was Merle. Yeah.
I keep saying Waylon Jennings, but it was
No,
Merle.
It's okay. Yeah, and so that was one time where I saw him. I knew it hit him very hard. As a matter of fact, it was about 2 days later. He hadn't been to Billy Bob's, Texas, in probably over 10 some odd years, because he was getting older. And but he was like, "Hey, son, you want to go to Billy Bob's?" And so we went to Billy Bob's. We walked around. I knew he was going down memory lane, and we had a great evening that night. It was just him, my mom, and myself. Just walking around, and Robert Gallagher and those people are always so great to us. And so.
Yeah, there's so much history at Billy Bob's. Right when you walk in, you sense it, you see the history, you realize, man, I'm at a place where some giants have been here.
It's crazy, right? It really is. It goes back to like Robert Gallagher, Pam Minnick, and those they're just such great people too. Just great people. They do such a fantastic job on keeping it real and keeping it that old good old honky tonk vibe that you want. And that we're losing a lot of today.
Yeah, and it's cool to catch that whenever you're there because you feel it.
Yeah.
It's even if it is nostalgic, you still sense it right when you walk in. I'll tell you what. Whenever when I'm at the stockyards and I smell, horse shit, I
Right.
immediately know
Yeah,
I'm at
Bill,
the stockyards, baby.
there's nothing like the Fort Worth stockyards, man. And I'm partial. It's my hometown. That's where I was born and raised.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love the stockyards. There's so much history there too. Some of the
yeah,
places have closed, like Ernest Tubbs Record Shop out there. That was one of my favorite places to go.
yeah,
But yeah, and I'm so glad that they're keeping it the way they have. I know there have been debates about making it more commercial. I think at one point it almost became that way. They were going to start building tall buildings out there, and the powers that be, kind of squash that. Now we need to keep the Fort Worth stockyard the way it is.
yeah. You still have Sundance and a lot of other places.
Right.
Modernize those places. Keep stockyards the way it is. It's
Of course.
every oh shit. Right when I walk in, I'm telling you, it's
It's no disrespect. It's just
yes.
I'm here.
Stockyards,
It's time for a beer.
Thank you so much for sitting around talking with us about your father.
Sure. Sure. Well, James, I really appreciate you. And one thing that when my dad passed, we knew it would be news. We didn't expect the news the way it was. So we were just amazed, and you see thoughts and prayers and all that all the time, but that really truly has helped our family. We were, when he got COVID, he got to where he wasn't talking on the phone. So the nursing home was the only place. They were our only contact to my dad. And when they called us and they told us that, yeah, he's not feeling good, something's wrong, and it happened so quick. And then 3 hours later, he was in the hospital. And then I think 2 hours later, we were talking to a doctor and a nurse and said he's not going to make it. And we're about to give him medication to make him extremely comfortable. And, of course, we were torn. My dad, I can honestly say, people talk about what's it like having your dad, Bill Mack. And, my dad was my best friend. He truly, truly was my best friend. It was an open door policy. I could talk to him about anything without him going off on me. He was the most loving man and funny. Funny is I'll get out, sarcastic. And we couldn't go up there. We couldn't risk my mom. They said, he was in the COVID unit. And so we had to say our goodbyes by phone. And this is my classic dad. We were, my sister was crying. I was crying, and my dad, he could barely talk. And he says, would you guys please pull yourselves together? You're embarrassing me in front of this beautiful nurse. And so, I'm still single. I've been divorced now for about 8 years. And I told my dad, so I asked my dad, I go, well, what does she look like? And the nurse told me, he's rolling his eyes. And he always said this to me, he goes, is that all you think about, son? But he was ready. But the main thing where I was getting at, though, is, my main concern, too, the next day after he passed, I called the nursing home. And they were definitely upset. He was the first person to catch it there. And from what I hear now, they've had about 4 or 5 new cases in that home they was at. But my main concern was making sure that staff was okay, because they did such a tremendous job. There was no anger. Some people were asking me, "Oh, aren't you pissed at the nursing home?" Man, look, this is where we're at today. So I called them to make sure they were okay, and let them know how much we love them, and and that's where I know you and I were talking earlier before the podcast. This isn't about a mask debate or people wearing masks, but one thing is just realizing that we're all in this together at the end of the day. Whatever belief you have, whatever political side you have, we're all in this together. Share a little bit more love, compassion for each other instead of pointing fingers. Somebody's wearing a mask, somebody's not. Stuff. And I told you earlier, my cousin was in the hospital for 3 weeks. My uncle passed away. My grandma was put in a nursing home. My mom's mom. We haven't been able to see her yet. My cousin was in there for 3 weeks. His wife. My uncle still has complications from it. And then my other uncle passed away from a heart attack. But what I'm seeing is this isn't like a poor Billy thing. It's just this is happening to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people right now. And so I'd like to see a little bit more, just compassion together. Because I've had people call me, what's on his death certificate? Friends, I say that in quotes.
What is with people? Why are they
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
like that?
Yes, and it's a shame that that's where we're at today. It really is. But my thing is to anybody who has a family member in a nursing home, a facility. My heart goes out to them, and we know what it's like. It's horrible. It sucks. But we love them, and our hearts go out to them as well.
I can't tell you enough what it means for you to share your story with me. It really does mean a lot.
You're good. I have nothing but respect for you, man. When you came and visited me here in Stephenville, I just started Texas House Saturday nights, and you came out there and you made me miss having a co-host. Seriously, it's so much fun off of you. And
yeah, dude, I had a blast.
We were promoting your song, and really, man, we just had more fun talking on the air. So yeah, you were the one that made me miss. I had a co-host for a couple of years, and after you left, I was like, I need a co-host. What's cool with the podcast that you're doing here is that sometimes you have that time period you have to keep in radio when you do your interviews for the most part. Yeah. And but that's what's cool about the podcast is because you get to see what happens off the air, and that's what I love about them too. Hey, God bless you. Hey, God bless you, man. I'm proud to call you a friend. You're always smiling. You've always got that upbeat attitude, brother. And again, I just proud to call you a friend.
Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Today, we've been talking with Billy Mack about his father. So you're the third. I found this out as well.
Yes, my dad's second wife, or first wife, had a miscarriage, or not a miscarriage. The baby died at birth, and they had to give him a name. And so Billy Mack Jr., because my dad didn't think he was going to have any more kids. And then surprise.
So you're Billy Mack III.
Billy Mack III. Yep.
That's awesome.
People always say Billy Mack Jr. I don't correct them or anything, but no, it's always been third. Well, God bless you, brother. And man, when this is all over, man, we need to get together and have a cold beer. Seriously.
Definitely, man. We'll get together and we'll hang out sometime. Billy, thanks again for sharing your story of your father with us. I truly appreciate you, man. And you take care in 2020. All right.
Hey, love you, buddy.
Love you too. Take care.